Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. And we're going to be talking about digital storytelling.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of amazing to think about, storytelling is this deeply human thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've always done it right. I mean, from those cave paintings to TikTok dances today.
Yeah.
Like we've always found ways to share stories.
Yeah.
But how has technology kind of changed the landscape of storytelling? Like, how has it taken us from those, ancient campfires into this whole new digital landscape?
I think one of the most fascinating things is how technology isn't just a tool to tell stories, but it's really reshaping how we experience and tell stories.
Right.
So you think about something like the interactivity of video games, or like how a show on Netflix might be choose your own adventure, and you're actually like affecting the narrative.
Yeah.
These are possibilities that we just didn't have before digital tools.
So we're talking about more than just like slapping some text on a photo and calling it a story.
Exactly. So digital storytelling is really about using digital tools to craft a narrative experience.
Okay.
And it still has those core elements of story. Like you need a point. You need an engaged audience, characters, a timeline, but it's just adding a whole new dimension because of the digital realm.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Mm-hmm.
So where did all of this begin? Like, were people telling stories on those like clunky computers from the 80s?
Believe it or not, yes.
We're like,
So we saw the rise of hypertext fiction back then. And so think of it like choose your own adventure books, but on the computer.
Yep.
And so one platform was called HyperCard.
Okay.
And this let writers create these like branching narratives where the reader clicks through different paths and that shapes the story.
Oh, wow.
It might seem primitive now, but it really foreshadowed the kind of interactive storytelling we see in games and streaming services.
It's like those early experiments were planting the seeds for like what we have now.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's so cool. And what about like those early internet urban legends and chain letters?
Right.
Is that a form of digital storytelling too?
Were for sure.
Okay.
They were tapping into folklore.
Right.
And, these spooky tales that would spread like wildfire through email.
Right.
It's basically the digital equivalent of, gathering around a campfire and telling spooky stories.
Right.
And that viral element, the way that digital stories can spread so rapidly.
Right.
That's something that's really unique to the medium.
Yeah. So even in those early days, we were seeing kind of hints of what digital storytelling could become.
Yeah.
So cool. But things really exploded when the internet took off in the 90s, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's when things really...
Yeah, the web became this vast canvas for all sorts of digital storytelling experiments.
Right.
And one example is dreaming methods.
Okay.
And this was a web-based story that used Flash to create a really immersive multimedia experience.
Okay.
So it combined audio, text, animation, and clickable links.
Okay. Wow.
So people could explore the narrative in all these non-linear ways.
I bet clicking through those early websites felt like stepping into a whole new world.
Oh, yeah?
With surprises around every corner.
Totally.
Did these early experiments have any lasting impact, though?
They definitely did.
Okay.
So around this time, the Center for Digital Storytelling, or CDS, was founded in Berkeley.
Okay.
And they did something really revolutionary.
Yeah.
They empowered everyday people to tell their own stories.
Oh, wow.
Using video.
Wait, so regular folks were making their own movies?
They were.
That's amazing. What kind of stories were they telling?
So the focus was on personal narratives.
Okay.
So stories about their lives, their experiences, their communities.
Right.
And it was a really powerful way to give a voice to people who, hadn't traditionally had access to filmmaking tools.
Right.
So you can think of it as like democratizing storytelling.
I love that.
Putting the tools of narrative creation into the hands of anyone who had a story to tell.
I love that idea that everyone has a story.
And now they had a way to share it.
Exactly.
It seems like that spirit of democratization really took off with the rise of blogs in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, for sure. Blogs did more than just give everyone a voice.
Right.
They became this really fertile ground for new forms of storytelling.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just like posting about your cat or what you had for breakfast.
Oh, yeah, much more.
Okay.
So one fascinating development was the temporally structured archival blog.
Okay.
So picture this, a blog that retells the moon landing.
Okay.
Through daily posts and incorporates tweets as if they were written in 1969.
Wow.
News reports astronaut journal entries.
That's so cool.
It's like you're stepping back in time
yeah.
and experiencing the event as it happened.
That's a brilliant way to make history feel more personal and immediate.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be really engaging.
For sure.
For readers.
Yeah.
Were there any other unique ways that blogs were used for storytelling?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we also saw the emergence of character blogging. And this is where bloggers would create these fictional personas, and they would interact with readers in character.
Wow.
And so it really blurred the lines between reality and fiction.
Right.
So imagine you're following a blog written by a fictional detective investigating a mystery in your city.
Oh, wow.
It creates this interactive experience where you're not sure what's real and what's not.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So blogs weren't just platforms for sharing thoughts.
Right.
They were becoming stages for all these creative storytelling experiments.
Exactly.
I bet social media really changed things again.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
With the rise of platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Flickr, digital storytelling went viral in a whole new way, and each platform offered its own unique set of constraints and possibilities, and it led to just incredibly diverse forms of storytelling.
Okay, let's dive into that social media world.
Okay.
First up, Twitter, the land of microblogging.
Yeah?
How do you tell a story in 280 characters or less?
Well, it forces you to be incredibly concise.
Yeah.
So remember that viral Twitter thread where people collaborated to tell a ghost story one tweet at a time?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great example of how limitations can breed creativity.
Right.
And we also saw the rise of Twitter fiction, which is collaborative storytelling, where people would build on each other's tweets.
Wow.
And even like micropoetry, you know, capturing entire worlds in just a few lines.
It's like a haiku.
Exactly.
Where every word carries so much weight.
Yeah.
But what about Facebook? It seems more like a place to share photos of your lunch than to tell stories.
Well, Facebook took that character blogging concept to another level.
Okay.
So people transformed their profiles into fictional characters.
Really?
And their status updates, comments, and wall posts would all become part of the story.
It's like those reality shows where you get a glimpse into someone's life, but it's all carefully crafted fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Did Facebook even allow that kind of thing?
Officially, no.
Okay.
But people found these really creative ways to kind of work within the rules.
Right.
So they would use pseudonyms, create groups for their characters.
Wow.
And even collaborate to build these interconnected storylines.
It's like digital street theater, like taking over a public space and turning it into your stage.
And exactly.
And then there's Flickr, where it's all about images.
Right.
How would people tell stories with just pictures?
So remember those temporally structured archival blogs?
Yeah.
Flickr and other image-based platforms allowed people to tell stories through these sequences of images.
Okay.
And they often drew on historical photos or created photo essays with a clear narrative arc.
Okay.
So think of it like a silent film.
Right.
You know, the story unfolds entirely through visuals, facial expressions, carefully chosen imagery.
So we're seeing this trend across platforms.
Yeah.
That digital storytelling is all about finding new ways to use the tools available to craft engaging narratives.
Exactly.
But we can't forget about audio and video, right?
Of course not.
Like podcasts and web video, we're taking storytelling to a whole new level.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so let's talk podcasts.
Okay.
They seem to have just exploded in popularity.
They really have.
There's a podcast for practically every interest out there.
Yeah.
What is it about this format that makes it such a powerful storytelling tool?
Well, I think podcasts bring this level of intimacy and immersion that's hard to find elsewhere. It's like you're having a conversation with a friend who's sharing a really fascinating story.
Right.
And because you're just listening, you know you're more engaged with the narrative.
Okay.
You have to create the images in your mind, which I think makes the experience all the more personal.
Yeah, it's like reading a book with your ears.
Exactly.
You get so drawn into the world that the storyteller is creating.
Totally.
But what kinds of stories do you think work best in this audio-only format?
Well, you see a lot of variety in podcasts. Okay. So there are shows like In Our Time that bring together experts to discuss a topic.
Right.
And they weave together historical context, personal anecdotes, and, you know, insights into this really engaging narrative. And then you have podcasts like The Memory Palace, which use music and sound design to create these beautifully evocative mini stories.
Wow.
About historical figures or events.
It's like historical fiction, but for your ears.
Exactly.
You can practically feel yourself transported back in time.
Yeah.
Are there any fictional podcasts that really stand out as like innovative examples of digital storytelling?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is Welcome to Night Vale.
Okay.
And it's told in the format of a community radio show.
Okay.
But the stories are these like surreal, darkly comedic tales about this strange desert town.
Okay.
And it's really unlike anything else out there.
Yeah.
And it shows how podcasts can create these unique and immersive worlds using just sound and voice.
Wow. So it sounds like podcasts have really pushed the boundaries
They have.
of what's possible in audio storytelling.
Yeah.
But what about web video?
Right.
Platforms like YouTube seem to have democratized filmmaking.
Totally.
Giving anyone with a camera and an internet connection the ability to share their stories.
It's true. I mean, YouTube and other video platforms have been a game changer.
Right.
Suddenly, everyone has the potential to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And we see everything from like simple vlogs to these elaborate multi-part series with incredible production value.
Remember Lonely Girl 15?
Of course.
Like that was one of the first web series to really capture the public's imagination.
Yeah.
It was presented as this teenage girl's video diary.
Right.
But then it turned out to be this elaborate fictional creation.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Lonely Girl 15 was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It blurred the lines between reality and fiction in a way that really captivated audiences. And it showed the power of serial storytelling online, with each episode building on the previous one and, you know, keeping viewers hooked week after week.
It's like the evolution of a soap opera.
Right.
But with this digital twist.
Exactly.
And now there are so many talented YouTubers out there who have built these huge followings by just sharing their lives, their thoughts, their creative work.
Right.
And it's like you get this glimpse into their world.
Yeah.
You see their creative process unfold. And you get inspired by their stories.
And we can't forget about machinima.
Oh, yeah.
Using video game engines to create animated films. It's this fascinating blend of gaming and filmmaking that's led to some really creative and innovative work.
Yeah, it's like stop motion animation.
Right.
But with these digital characters and environments.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of skill and patience to create those.
Yeah, it does.
And speaking of gaming.
Yeah.
It seems like video games have evolved from this simple form of entertainment to these complex, story-driven experiences.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Games are incredibly powerful storytelling platforms, from small-scale indie games to those massive multiplayer online worlds.
Right.
They use characters, narrative setting, and player choice to create these truly immersive stories.
So let's start with the smaller games.
Okay.
What kind of storytelling elements are we seeing there?
So think about those cutscenes that advance the plot or introduce new characters. They're like little mini movies within the game.
Right.
But it's not just about those big moments. It's also about all those little details that build the world and create a sense of immersion.
Right.
So the characters' dialogue, the environmental storytelling.
Okay.
Like those subtle clues that help you piece together the story.
But like you're a detective, piecing together a mystery through observation and exploration. And what about those larger, more immersive games?
So games like BioShock and Fallout 3 create these incredibly rich and detailed worlds with multiple storylines, complex characters, and moral choices that really make you think.
Right.
But what's even more fascinating is how those massively multiplayer online games, or MMOs, create a space for emergent storytelling.
Emergent storytelling?
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
So that's where the players themselves become the storytellers.
Oh, wow.
They form guilds, they create their own characters and backstories, and they interact in ways that the game designers never even anticipated.
Wow.
So a great example is EVE Online.
Okay.
Players have created their own corporations, waged epic wars across star systems.
That's crazy.
And even staged elaborate in-game political dramas.
So it's not just about the stories that the developers create.
Right.
It's about the stories that the players themselves bring to life through their interactions.
And with social media amplifying those player-created stories, it becomes this ever-evolving narrative tapestry
Wow.
that blurs the lines between creator and audience in these fascinating ways.
We've come a long way.
We have.
From those early hypertext experiments to the immersive worlds of MMOs.
It's true.
But as technology continues to evolve,
yeah,
where do you see digital storytelling heading in the future?
Well,
what's next on the horizon?
That's the exciting part. You know, possibilities are practically limitless.
Yeah.
And we've touched on virtual reality a bit.
Right.
But let's dive a little deeper into that.
Okay. VR, everyone's talking about it.
Right.
But when it comes to storytelling, is it just hype or is there real potential there?
I think VR offers a level of immersion that we've never seen before. I mean, imagine instead of watching a movie, you're in it.
Yeah.
You can explore like a historical event.
Right.
Walk through a painting.
Wow.
Even experience the story from a character's point of view.
Right.
So we're moving beyond storytelling as this passive experience and into a realm where the audience is a participant.
So instead of just like reading about climbing Mount Everest,
right,
I could actually feel like I'm standing on the summit.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Are there any VR stories out there right now that really showcase this potential?
Yeah, there are some incredible VR experiences emerging.
Okay.
So filmmakers, artists, even journalists are experimenting with this new medium.
Okay.
You can find short films, interactive narratives, even virtual museums where you can walk through ancient ruins.
Wow.
We're still in the early stages,
right,
but the creativity is really exploding.
It sounds like VR could be a game changer for documentary filmmaking too.
Yeah.
Instead of just telling us about a far-off place, they could take us there.
Exactly.
What about augmented reality, though? That seems to be gaining traction as well.
Yeah.
Could AR be used for storytelling?
Absolutely. AR overlays digital content onto the real world.
Right.
So imagine walking through your city and you see historical figures appear on street corners.
Wow.
Or you're playing a game and your neighborhood becomes the game board.
Yeah.
So it's about blending the digital and physical worlds to create these really unique narrative experiences.
Wow. So my morning commute could turn into an interactive historical tour.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As we wrap up,
I'm
curious, what advice would you give to someone who wants to create their own digital story? Do you need like a fancy degree?
No, not at all. Or a ton of equipment to get started. The beauty of digital storytelling is that it's really accessible to everyone. The most important thing is to just start creating.
Right.
So find a story that you're passionate about and experiment with the tools that are available to you.
So there's no one right way
to
tell a digital story.
You can use video, audio, text images, even interactive elements. So think about the platforms that you're comfortable with and the story that you want to tell. There are tons of free resources online to help you learn new skills. And you know that CDS model we talked about earlier? That's a great resource for structuring personal narrative.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Start with the story you want to tell.
Yeah.
And then figure out the best way to bring it to life digitally.
Exactly.
And with technology constantly evolving, who knows what amazing new forms of digital storytelling will emerge in the future.
That's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
We're only scratching the surface of what's possible. And as technology advances, the ways that we can share and experience stories will continue to evolve in ways we can't even imagine.
This has been an awesome journey.
Yeah, it has
We've covered so much from the earliest forms of digital storytelling to the mind-blowing possibilities of VR and AR.
It's been quite a ride.
I think the key takeaway here is that everyone has a story to tell.
They do.
And digital tools are giving us more power than ever before to share those stories with the world.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Digital storytelling is all about democratizing narrative creation, empowering people to find their voices and connect with others in meaningful ways. It's a really exciting time to be a storyteller.
It is.
And I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Well, that's it for this deep dive into digital storytelling.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What aspect of digital storytelling excites you the most?
Right.
What stories are you just burning to tell?
What's your story?
Share your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, happy storytelling.
Hey.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.